What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast, and this is the undefeated post-weigh-in show brought to you by Pub Sports Radio with lines presented to you by Superbook Sports. We take one final look at these fighters before they step in the cage. We're looking at the weigh-ins. We're trying to find any extra little bit of value for your betting weekend and trying to bring it to you on a silver platter. Did pretty well last week. Not gonna shrink away from that fact. We are undefeated. Next up, we're going to talk about this entire card, UFC Austin, and the first fight that we have to discuss, Kyle Daukaus taking on Roman Dolidze. When these guys jump up here on the scales, you know what? First off, I got to give a real quick shout out. My guy PayPal me my money, and Helen Yee, because with UFC Austin, apparently the internet is so bad they couldn't live stream the weigh-ins this morning, so I was on Instagram watching the Schmo and Helen's Instagram stories to get these little snippets of the fighters actually weighing in. So totally different vibe for your boy today. And there are some fighters that we never got to see until the ceremonial weigh-ins, so it's all going to be a little bit interesting for this one. Kyle Daukaus and Roman both made 185 and a half. Daukaus looked relaxed, no issues whatsoever up there, showing some abs off, looking like he's piling on some muscle. Got that young man bod turning into the man bod, that transformation taking place. Roman Dolidze looks solid, a little bit slimmer though to my eye. You know, he dropped from 205 down to 185. That was a rough looking cut for him. It looks like maybe he's getting that down a little bit better, but you're losing some muscle mass when you repeatedly keep your body down at that weight. So I think he's a little bit smaller, at least it looked like it to me. This was a good face-off. These guys size up pretty well. Roman Dolidze obviously just a little bit thicker still than Kyle Daukaus. I have Kyle Daukaus in a parlay myself personally, have him tied with Kevin Holland a little bit further on down the card. He's currently a minus 260 favorite, plus 220 coming in on Roman Dolidze. Apparently, Superbook Sports had a newcomer, a random new guy, someone who they are not aware of, come in and place a pretty significant bet on Roman Dolidze. Insider info here provided to me since I have that connection with Superbook Sports. They don't know how to weight that yet, obviously, because this is not one of their regularly occurring sharp bettors, so they're not quite sure if that's sharp or public action just yet. I guess we'll find out Saturday, but I am on the Daukaus side. I do have him parlayed. I think he gets it done with volume and the ability to scramble. Phil Hawes taking on Duran Wynn coming up next. Phil Hawes came in 185. Wynn made 186. Hawes was one of the guys that I wasn't able to find any footage or tape on, so unfortunately don't know what he looked like on the scales, but he looked fine at the ceremonial weigh-ins. Dude is filled out, very thick. We know Hawes is a muscle beast. Duran Wynn, unfortunately, last fighter to make it to the scale here. He did require the box of shame. He had heavy eyes. It was a really tough-looking cut for the guy, but you know what? He made it. He made it, and he had plenty of time to recover, and he looked just fine at these ceremonial face-offs. These two got in each other's face, and they were going at it. They were talking, and Hawes is not as huge as I expected. Like, I know there's a decent size difference between these two. Duran Wynn is always the smaller man, but I really thought Hawes was going to have much more size on Duran Wynn. It's a little bit more competitive. I like that personally. I have a 1-unit stab here on Duran Wynn. I like to be on the other side of Hawes. Y'all know that. I think he's a little overinflated, a little overhyped, and I know he can be cracked. Someone like Duran Wynn who goes to that grappling and has been working with a guy like Khabib in this camp, I do think we might be able to see Duran Wynn finally turn that corner. This is not like a home run spot for me. It's not like a Jake Matthews 3 units on the dog type of spot. This is just a 1-unit shot on the money line and then a half unit. I do have that on the decision prop, which we got boosted over at Superbook Sports to plus 650. So a nice little extra dollar of value there thanks to Superbook Sports. So thank you guys for that. Hopefully that gets through for us here. But I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Phil Hawes just basically KO him here in round 1. I'm hoping we get a new and improved version of Duran Wynn. Cody Stamann taking on Eddie Wineland. Stamann 135 and a half. Wineland 135 on the dot. Now Cody is another guy that required the box of shame. That was a thing this week apparently. But holy crap, is this man jacked. Like, I know Cody Stamann is always well muscled, but like, he called Vitor Belfort in for this camp. Like, oh, Eddie Wineland, another guy we didn't get to see on the scales. When they face off, this was a very respectful face-off. Obviously, Eddie Wineland's taller, lankier, longer, skinnier, but no real issues from what I was able to see there. And Cody Stamann, even though he needed the box of shame, he looked fine as well. So I'm not really concerned about this one. I don't really want to lay minus 550, but this does seem like a layup spot for Cody Stamann. I haven't put him in anything personally, just because I don't know that I necessarily trust him, but it's kind of a big step up for Eddie, and he's coming off back-to-back knockouts. seems like a buy low spot, except the price is not priced as buy low. Cody Stamann just jumped from minus 550 to minus 600 right in front of my eyes, for anybody noticing or caring. So money apparently flooding in on the favorite there. We've got Gloria Paula taking on Maria Oliveira. Both women made 115. I was able to find Gloria Paula's personal Instagram, saw her on there. She was doing the silent roar and flex at the camera. I don't know why they just scream. Like, if you're that pumped up, why are you just, like, opening your mouth? Like, scream. Go for it. Actually, give it a go. And she looked great. She looked solid. No issues for Maria Oliveira that I was able to tell either. She is in shape, looking good herself. This was a very intense face-off, something that surprised me a little bit, and Gloria Paula has a size advantage. These two went nose to nose, and honestly, Maria Oliveira was the one that I expected to be the slightly taller, slightly longer fighter. She was not. So I thought we were going to have a battle of height and reach versus explosiveness and speed. Instead, we've got the bigger, taller, stronger, longer fighter who's also the crisper, faster striker. I didn't particularly like Gloria Paula at this minus price tag. Minus 265 is a favorite right now. I didn't think she was worth trusting at that price. Even though I do like her from a side perspective, I thought she probably would get her hand raised, but I think it's going to be close and competitive. After seeing the sizes backwards from what I expected, yeah, I know it's a tiny little detail, like the better fighter should still prevail, but when you have two fighters of equal skill, the bigger one tends to have the advantage, so it's just one more little check mark that goes in the favor of Gloria Paula for me. This turned into maybe a dogger pass, maybe I sprinkle one unit on Maria Oliveira, hope she keeps it close, hope this thing is a robbery in Texas where the judges don't know what they're doing. To going, damn, like, not, like, Gloria Paula's got every advantage that I can see except for her record. So, I like Gloria Paula as a favorite. I don't have a bet on her. I'm probably not going to parlay her or anything like that, but I do fully expect her to get the dub on Saturday. Danny Chavez taking on Ricardo Ramos. Chavez 145 on the dot. Ricardo Ramos needed the extra pound, 146. Danny Chavez looked a bit rough on the scales today. Very cut up. He's a thick, muscly dude, but he gave a solid flex. Professional. He looked good. Ricardo Ramos, a guy that struggled a little bit, but he looked super excited on the scales today. Gave a good, solid flex. He was really amped up here. This was a great face-off. Tall and long versus short and thick. Your classic size up here. Neither guy wanted to back down. This was extremely intense. I am a sucker for Danny Chavez. So far this week, I have found a way to stay off it. Ricardo Ramos is a minus 290 favorite. Danny Chavez is a plus 245 underdog. And I just don't trust Ricardo Ramos' chin. I talked about it on Monday, though. He gives me serious Charlie Oliveira vibes. Like, for some reason, I just think that Ricardo Ramos is the second coming of Charlie O. Eventually, he's going to put this all together. Eventually, he's going to turn that corner. And when he does, these minus 300 price tags are going to look cheap on him. I just don't know if it's this Saturday. And if anybody's going to get into a brawl with this kid and test that chin again, it's going to be a guy like Danny Chavez that likes to wrestle box. Keep this thing standing. Keep it on the feet. Wing heavies. I think Ricardo Ramos probably wins a decision here. I don't know that he finishes Danny Chavez. Danny's a black belt, so even if it hits the ground, it's not like Ricardo Ramos is just destined to win that fight. I think this one could be very close, very competitive. Another spot where, like, there's value on the dog, but he falls just short when the judges read their scorecards off type of situation. I'm tempted to throw a little dart on Danny Chavez. This whole card, folks, this whole card, I know a lot of people hate this, but this is a card where the lines are wide, where the favorites should win. But that provides betting value on the underdogs when we're talking about some of these fights being close. A couple of these underdogs are going to squeeze in there. It's just a matter of finding which ones. I have been tempted on Danny Chavez all week. To this point, I'm kind of keeping my money in my pockets. Haven't bet this one yet, but again, it's a dog or pass spot for me personally. Court McGee taking on Jeremiah Wells. McGee came in at 170 on the dot, Wells 171. We had Court McGee looking solid up there, showing some abs off today. This might be the thickest, best in-shape Court McGee I think I've ever seen. The guy put some serious work in for this training camp. Jeremiah Wells, this is a muscle monster. Another guy I couldn't find actual weigh-in footage from him, but at the ceremonial face-offs, jeez! When they faced off, obviously another spot, Court McGee slightly taller, Wells slightly thicker. They size up decently well considering. It wasn't like a drastic difference between the two of them. This was a great face-off. These are just two veterans that are ready to go to war here. Now, I am pretty big here on Court McGee. I got plus 100 even money earlier in the week. That seems to be a relatively popular side here. Hopefully we pull off of Jake Matthews again and we're all correct. He's a minus 125 favorite now. So even considering we got what I feel is the right side, it's still a very closely lined fight. But I have 3 units at plus 100, even money. Court McGee was the one that jumped off the page at me, basically screaming, this guy should not be the underdog. Minus 125 makes sense. He should be the favorite. Even if it's just a slight favorite, Court McGee deserves to be the favorite in this spot. I know this fight could be sketchy. Jeremiah Wells is explosive. He's got good grappling. He's physically strong. I think Court McGee's counter wrestling and get-up game as well as his volume will be what wins him the day in the end because he's a guy that's just damn near impossible to finish. Now, if someone's going to finish him, it will be somebody like Jeremiah Wells, but as long as we avoid that early bomb, I think Court just kind of outpaces him for the rest of the fight. Jasmine Judavicius taking on Natalia Silva. Judavicius came in 124.75. Got that little quarter pound on there. We got 125.5 for Silva. Jasmine was another fighter who didn't show. We didn't get any video pre-ceremonials. She's big, dude. Like, she's big for this weight class. Natalia Silva looked great, though. Well-muscled, relaxed on the scales. When they faced off, Jasmine stuck a finger up in Silva's face and really got after her. Silva did not take kindly to that, smacked her hand out of the way, and Jasmine was kind of laughing in her face. This was a surprisingly intense face-off. I wasn't ready for these two to have bad blood and be going at it like that. I can't blame Natalia, though. Someone sticks their finger in your face like that, you're going to get a little riled up about it, but it was intense. And Jasmine obviously has a size advantage. We knew that coming in. Silva is going to be a little bit undersized, but damn, she is in good shape. She comes out of Paulo Costa's gym, so, you know what, coming out of Paulo Costa's gym, we know two things about Silva. We know that, one, she's probably got a damn good doctor. And number 2, we know she can take a punch. So I did take a 1-unit underdog stab here on Natalia Silva. I just am not impressed with Jasmine Judavicius. I think she's a weight bully. And once you get past that size, I'm not impressed with her skill set whatsoever. When this thing hits the ground, Natalia is going to have the slicker BJJ. Hopefully she doesn't just completely accept bottom and give up a bunch of time control to Jasmine, because that's kind of the one way I see this fight going really badly, is if Jasmine just kind of lays on top of her for 15 minutes. But then if this thing's on the feet, Silva's the faster, more active striker. Jasmine's a bit slow on the feet, takes a little bit of time to reload. I've talked about this before. Speed kills. I'm okay with having the smaller fighter as long as she fights to the right game plan. So I could see Natalia Silva getting a bit of a late finish here. Jasmine Judavicius gasses out every single time. I think I've said her name 4 times, and I've said it differently every single time. Sorry about that. Trying to get through this quick for you. I think Jasmine, she slows down in the second round, basically every single fight. So if Natalia puts a pace on her, I could see a late finish here. So I've got 1 unit on her. I think we got plus 200 earlier in the week. I'm actually tempted to make this my standard 2 units. I've been doing 2 units on everything lately. I used to do 1 unit on everything. And then instead of doing half units, I'm doing 1 full units on things. I don't know. I'm kind of lost when it comes to that stuff. So I'm tempted to round this one up and make it a 2-unit play, just like all my other standard bets are at this point. We'll see if I end up doubling down on that or not later in the week, and this could be a round 3 sprinkle type of spot where I go for that late finish. Tony Kelley taking on Adrian Yanez, the real main event here for everybody. Kelley missed weight, folks. Like he wasn't already hated enough. Like MMA Twitter didn't have a big enough issue with this man. Now he comes in 2.5 pounds over. He tried the box. A shame. Didn't work. Dude looks exhausted on the scales. Dragging his feet, walking around. Didn't even bother flexing. He was in rough shape this morning. Adrian Yanez looked a bit relieved when they called his weight, 135.5. Big smile, looked good, solid flex, love that dude. This was a super ugly face-off. These guys got into it. I mean, we're talking benches cleared. They had to separate these two. They were yelling at each other from across the cage. Height and reach advantage goes to Tony Kelley. For a guy that had a rough weight cut, he looked like he filled up pretty damn well. This is one of those spots where, he doesn't look like he faked the weight cut. You know what I mean? He definitely came in heavy, but you got to wonder, the guy with the height and reach advantage coming in with a little extra weight on him when he knows he's got a target on his back. It's about that time, folks. I talked about this one on the podcast, that I think I might try the split decision prop, and I might take Tony Kelley by split decision. We all think that Adrian Yanez is the truth, but the fact is, this is kind of a step up in class for him. This is a fighter that presents some problems he's never faced before, and Yanez takes the first round off of every single fight. If he gets a round behind a guy like Tony Kelley, round 2 is going to be tight. Round 3 probably goes to Yanez, but if he doesn't knock Kelley out, and this thing goes to the judges' scorecards, it's going to be close. So Yeah, I'm kind of looking at over. I'm kind of looking at Tony Kelley as a dog. I'm looking at Tony Kelley by split. Like, there's all kinds of stuff we can get into here. Of course, my heart is going to be rooting full with Adrian Yanez, but I absolutely could see Tony Kelley getting the nod. Plus, we are in Texas, folks. I know both these guys have roots in Texas, but it's not like Tony is not going to be the hometown guy. So this fight decision could go his way. It's going to get crazy. Can't wait. Next fight up, Julian Marquez taking on RoboCop Gregory Rodrigues. Both guys come in at 185.5. Marquez got that big old goofy smile on his face like always. Solid flex. Looking good. Gregory Rodrigues is a big dude. No issues for him on the scales this morning. They size up pretty well. Even though Gregory Rodrigues coming in short notice, no issues making the weight. Marquez is not a small man. I expected Gregory Rodrigues to tower over Julian Marquez, and he did not. Marquez sized up much better than I anticipated. I've been looking at Julian Marquez as an underdog pretty much all week. I think that Gregory Rodrigues coming in on short notice could be a bit of a problem. The man tends to slow down, gas out, took a lot of damage his last fight. Now he's taking on the Cuban freaking Missile Crisis, a guy that is known for the explosive power in his hands. And on top of that, I got the inside track from my guy El Jefe. Apparently Gloria MMA is backing their boy here. They bet him a little bit earlier on as well at a better number. Might be tailing that action. Plus 150 on the underdog Julian Marquez. I talked about maybe a third round KO spot. I don't think he's submitting Rodrigues just because Gregory Rodrigues is such a slick jiu-jitsu player. I think Marquez is going to have to get it done with his fists, so I'm kind of leaning KO prop personally, but I do think that the underdog is live in that spot. Next up, we got Joaquin Buckley taking on Albert Duraev, and Joaquin came in at 184. Joaquin thickly. Albert Duraev made 185.5. Didn't get to see Buckley besides just a real quick snippet of it. Boy, does he look solid. Duraev actually looked good as well. He was a bit confused when they called his weight. I think he expected to be like 185 on the dot or something, but this was another intense one, man. Buckley got into his face immediately, and Duraev just started laughing at him. I mean, like, straight up, out of pocket, disrespect, laughing in the face of Joaquin Buckley. Now, I already personally like Albert Duraev. I think he's legit. I think he's the side. I think he can take advantage of a lot of the things that Joaquin Buckley doesn't do great. We know Buckley's a hard guy to coach, a hard guy to train. He's always hopping gyms because he can't stay anywhere. So I'm not sure how prepped he's going to be for this, and apparently these guys used to be training partners, and Duraev is just like uber confident that Buckley's not going to present any problems for him. He's already been on record saying that Buckley doesn't pose any type of a challenge to him, and he's like planning his next fight with a quick turnaround. Those are the kinds of things where normally I'd be like, oh yeah, my guy has super extra confidence on this one, but I'm actually a little nervous. Buckley hits so dang hard, and we've seen Duraev KO'd before, that if you're straight up disrespecting and looking past a man that's explosive the way Buckley is, I don't know. That could get you caught, man. I'm almost thinking violence, guys. I really am here. Buckley's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. Duraev is obviously winning the mental game on this one. We know Duraev can TKO pretty much anybody on the ground. He gets some subs as well, so like playing TKO or sub, you kind of got to pick your poison. I would just take him inside the distance or just play violence. I think Buckley could knock him out. I think Duraev probably just grinds him out on the mat. I'm picking Duraev, but I don't have a bet on this one. I'll be looking at Duraev inside the distance and or the under. Next up, Holland taking on Tim Means. Kevin Holland came in at 170 on the dot. Means 170.5. Classic Kevin Holland talking the whole time. He was up there smiling, having a good time. No issues for Tim Means. Classic Tim weigh-in. These guys size up extremely well. I mean, like same size, same height, same frame. Really good face-off. I mean, Means got intense. Kevin Holland wasn't having it. He was just kind of laughing and smiling, enjoying himself. But Tim Means is coming in here for war, guys. Kevin Holland closes out my parlay from earlier on with Dawkins, like I mentioned. And I also think Kevin Holland inside the distance makes some sense here. Tim Means is coming for war, and Holland will gladly meet him in the middle of the cage. We've seen what this guy can do against some serious opponents at 185. So I don't think he's going to have much of a problem being able to clip a guy like Tim Means at 170. I think Kevin Holland probably smokes him and gets back on track in this spot. It should be a fun fight, but I do think Holland is going to eventually end up clipping Tim Means and putting him away at some point. Donald Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon. Cerrone came in at 155, Lauzon 154.75. Again, another little quarter spot there. Cerrone looked sucked out bad, guys. He looked miserable on the scales today. He flashes up a smile at the very end there, but you could see his soul leaving his body. Joe Lauzon gave the crazy eyes up there. It looked like he shivered a little bit on the scales today. It was weird, but it only happened when he flexed. I went back, I looked at a different angle of it, and he was fine right up until that point. So I'm not sure what that was all about, but it was a little bit of a weird situation. No face-off here. No face-off. Very strange fight going on here, guys. Joe Lauzon was not on stage today because he had such bad cramps he couldn't make it to the ceremonial weigh-ins. Now, the fight is still on. There has been no cancellation, but Joe couldn't get up there to face off with Cowboy. So I don't know what to make of that. I've been looking at betting Joe Lauzon all week. I thought Joe Lauzon and violence, like, a lot of us think Joe Lauzon is live here. Donald Cerrone was out in Thailand filming a movie instead of training for this one. Like, his heart's not in it. You know Joe Lauzon's going to come at this thing like a bat out of hell, trying to end it as soon as possible. But I don't know what kind of shape Cerrone's in for this one. Now I don't know what kind of shape Joe Lauzon's in. Like, I thought Joe Lauzon would be the reliable one here, but coming off that long-ass layoff, being an old, almost retired fighter, and now not being able to make face-offs because you're cramping so bad from the weight cut, like, that's not a good sign. I don't want to put my money on Joe Lauzon. It's going to be violence or nothing for me, because like I said, I was going to bet Joe. How can I possibly bet him now if he's incapacitated the day before the fight from his own weight cut, even though he looked like he'd be the one who'd do better out of the two. Main event time, Calvin Kattar taking on Josh Emmett. Kattar came in at 146, Emmett 145.5. Calvin Kattar looks strong up there. Solid flex, focused. This guy is always dialed in and intense. Josh Emmett, speaking of dialed in, this guy looks like a serial killer up there. No emotion whatsoever. Jacked as all get out. This was a great face-off. It was one of those ones where it was extremely respectful, but you could tell both guys have the utmost confidence in themselves. Height and reach obviously go to Kattar. You've got the small, compact Josh Emmett. I can't wait for this one, you guys. I cannot wait for this main event. You've got Calvin Kattar a minus 230 favorite, Josh Emmett plus 195. The over 4.5 minus 140, the under 4.5 plus 120. Another spot where I'd kind of want to lean towards violence, but like I said before, neither guy has really given me indication of getting finished. Like, we've seen nothing but the ability for these guys to persevere through injury and the toughness, the willingness to stay in a fight, the resiliency, never quitting. Like, both of them have showed this off time and time and time again. So even though both of them are more than capable of finishing, I don't think I can bring myself to bet an under here. If anything, I'd probably take the flyer on the underdog, Josh Emmett. He's got the most power in the weight class, and I know that Calvin Kattar probably has a speed and a boxing advantage on him, but it's one of those 2-for-1 situations. We've seen judges award the guy landing the bigger power shots, and if Kattar lands, a nice jab and a cross, but then Josh crushes him with a hook, and puts his butt up against the fence or even knocks him to the ground, like, they're going to give that exchange to Josh Emmett. I'm just not sure how often he's going to be able to do that. So I lean towards Kattar winning a little bit, but again, I feel like this line is wide, and Josh Emmett can legitimately knock anybody in the weight class out. He's also a guy I'm a giant fan of, so I kind of want to be on the Emmett side just for the love of the guy. The knockout prop is plus 525. I mean, I kind of want to throw a flyer on that. The problem is, like I said, nobody finishes Calvin Kattar, so it's tough to really buy into throwing a flyer on Josh Emmett to win this thing by knockout. I don't know, guys. I don't know. This is one of those main events that's got me completely stumped. I don't have a bet on it, and maybe you just fireball and popcorn it, folks. Not because it's a bad fight, but because it's a damn good fight. Grab a drink real quick while they're running the promos. Sit your ass down. You're not going to want to miss this one. That's the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show, folks. We got a couple spots I'm still eyeballing. Might add just a couple of plays. Give me a follow at DieHard MMA Pod on Twitter if you haven't already. I'm also on Instagram. Check out all the plays that I lock in officially there. Good luck on all your degenerate action, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's roll.